Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing Joker, Folies, directed by Todd Phillips. I had such low expectations when I went to see this film. So low that I don't think the film could have been worse than what I was expecting. Most people I know who'd seen it said it was bad, with one exception. So I did keep an open mind. At a surface level, just as a cinema-going experience, I actually quite enjoyed this as a film. My expectations were so low, so anything that was good scored as a positive, and I think there were quite a few positives. I think the acting is fantastic. I love these two actors, and I loved the animation opening, and I really liked the darker scenes in the prison, and I always enjoy a court scene, so there was quite a lot that I liked. I thought the relationship between Arthur and Lee was interesting, and bizarrely, I actually really enjoyed the music. I'm not much of a fan of musicals, and I couldn't quite imagine that the first Joker film could have a follow-up that was a musical. But there we are. I enjoyed the music. It was really well produced, and it was a joy to see these two actors in the musical numbers. It's kind of a celebration of the Great American Songbook and Hollywood musicals. Strange, but true. I'm not sure that the film really works overall, and I think there's two main points that I would make. Firstly, although I'm not really into the DC universe, I quite liked the first Joker film. I also loved the 1960s Adam West, Burt Ward Batman TV series as a child, so I have a great affection for these characters. That means that I'm ready to be won over by a good film in the Batman universe. So I think there's a lot of ambiguity in this film. Is Arthur the Joker, the villain from the Batman universe? Or is he a vulnerable person who develops an alter ego as a way of making sense of the world, yet who's exploited as a non-hero celebrity by a Trump-style public? I would have liked him to become the Batman villain Joker in this sequel. Perhaps even set it up so that he appears in the next Batman film. Joaquin is such a great Joker, I think that it would be good to see him go up against the Batman. But my interpretation is that it's the latter of the two possibilities. This is more a film about mental health than superhero villains. I'm not going to say any more at this point on that because I don't want to give any spoilers, but at the end I will give a bit more detail. I will give a warning before I do this. By the way, I've watched the Dark Knight trilogy again in the last few days, and Heath Ledger's Joker is so good. Such a hard act to follow, but Joaquin Phoenix has successfully done it. This is a real achievement, I think. The second major flaw I see with this sequel is that despite actually quite enjoying it, I'm really not sure that the music actually works in the context of the film as a whole. It's all a bit bizarre, I think. The tone of the film is very dark in a really good way, and it just doesn't fit with that kind of classic Hollywood musical tone. I've been mulling this over quite a lot, whether there's an argument that it does make sense given that the Joker exists in this kind of fantasy world of Hollywood entertainment, and that the songs make sense in that context, that they're like an external manifestation of what's going on inside his head and the way he makes sense of the world. I think that there is perhaps something to this argument, and if that is the case, then the film works really well. I'm still not 100% convinced though. I guess that we could say that Todd Phillips hasn't just churned out another cliched superhero film. He definitely subverts the typical superhero villain tropes. It is highly original, though as I say, I'm not totally convinced it works. One other issue before I move on to spoilers. I think that there are perhaps questions about the portrayal of mental illness in this film and the previous one. Is mental health being used as a device for crazy criminal behaviour? Is it exploiting mental illness in an inappropriate way? I think that this is a legitimate question to debate, but overall my view is I feel that it just about stays on the right side of the issue. There is also a commentary here in these films of how society treats mental health. Arthur's ignored and mistreated, really. We learn in the first film that he's not given the help he needs due to spending cuts. And I think this helps to keep the film on the right side of appropriate or non-exploitative. So, overall, I think this is a flawed film, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It is really well made. Despite some major flaws, I would still recommend it as a cinematic spectacle. Now, I want to be more specific about the ending of the film, so switch off if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want spoilers. As I said, there is real ambiguity about what happens at the end, I think. My interpretation is that by the end, Arthur realises that he's not the Joker, that the Joker is just a persona that he developed to cope with his mental illness and the way that society treats vulnerable people. I think this storyline follows through the two films really well. In this way, Arthur as the Joker is not the DC Universe villain. He's a vulnerable person who's exploited as this kind of non-hero celebrity in a Trump style. How should Lee be seen? It seems that Lee is the ideal partner for him at first, but she's merely another person that wants to exploit him. This is what I think. She uses him. She doesn't really care about him. It's all a fantasy for her. So in this way, it isn't really a Joker film at all. And I could understand why someone who's really into the DC universe might not appreciate it. So this was my interpretation at the end of the film. I hadn't quite realised this additional thing, that what it was also implying at the end. I read afterwards that the guy who kills Arthur is in the background cutting his face with the knife as Arthur dies. I did kind of see it, but I didn't really realise because it's blurred. He's perhaps becoming the Dark Knight Joker that actually is the Batman villain, the Heath Ledger style Joker with the knife cut smile. I didn't pick this up when watching the film, but I feel that it seems to confirm my interpretation. So, final verdict. The film is very good if you can accept that, 1, it's not a Batman universe villain film, and 2, that the music works as part of Joker Harlequin's fantasy world. I still have a nagging doubt about both these points, however. I'm not 100% convinced. But overall, I did really enjoy it, and I think I could easily watch it again. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.